You can now play the 2022 cars in the latest F1 game. Thanks to Totolab on Overtake.gg, who's done an incredible job of porting the 2022 cars into the latest version of the F1 game. I know a lot of people didn't like the handling of F1 22, so this here actually gives us the opportunity to enjoy the 22 season once again, but with a better handling model and even graphics. Like, look how sick this looks, man. It just doesn't look real. Like, the fact this is physically possible to do is just incredible, and the fact 2022 is also 4 years ago as well doesn't feel real to me. This might as well be OG now this season, even though it isn't, like it's still recent, but for those who watched F1 in 22 will remember it was somewhat a good season, not the best but very solid. A very intense championship battle between Max and Charles in the first half of the season, before Max ran away with it in the second half and won his title at the Japanese Grand Prix. And of course, who can't forget when Kevin Magnussen put his Haas on pole at the Brazilian Grand Prix. That was such a feel-good moment for the entire F1 community. It was just incredible to see Magnussen get a pole, and even Haas in general. To me, the Ferrari was the best looking car from this season, but debatably you could see that Alfa Romeo livery wise is definitely up there as well, but the car as a whole, Ferrari for sure stood out, especially with those bathtub shaped side pods, man. Like, you could fit a water park in them. And talking of side pods, that's something Mercedes wouldn't have during this season, because they went for a really aggressive design, and the amount of talk that they brought to pre-season testing with the zero side pod design concept was incredible, man. The risks involved with this were absolutely huge, and Mercedes later did find out because they were massively off the pace compared to previous seasons. They did finish third in the Constructors, but they did win the previous 8 before that, so yeah, it was a bit of a downgrade for them. For those wondering as well, if you install the mod, it will replace the 2025 cars, so if you own the 26 DLC, you'll be able to still play as the 26 season, but have your option to jump to 22 if you really want to. So it's not exactly perfect like a replica of the 22 season with Seb Vettel and Aston Martin. Instead, we got Fernando Alonso and the rest of the 2025 grid. So from what I've seen people say, if you have path tracing on, you shouldn't have any issues, but if your graphics card can't run path tracing in this game, then the colours and shades are going to be a little bit more darker than what they normally are. And obviously I'm referring to the cars because you can already see it with the cars around me. If you're under a shadow, the cars are pretty much going to go black. Anywhere else around the circuit, it still looks a little bit more darker than it should be, but it still looks alright in my opinion. I mean, it's not the best, but it's still something. The modder has claimed even without path tracing, he isn't really experiencing any issues, but I mean, user feedback would say otherwise, so I really don't know what's going on there. So the worst possible outcome of this is the cars being a little bit more darker, but it's all good because it's still great to see these cars in the game anyway. So I think the time for talk is over. It's time to see these cars in action, and just look how incredible this looks, man. Like, it's just such a rare sight to see this HUD in general with these 22 cars. And also, I have my 22 realistic camera settings added to this as well. I'm going to show you them later in the video. If you guys install this mod, you can use my settings so you can get it properly like what you see in my videos. But the thing is here, we've started the race. Look at this from Lando Norris. I was so caught off guard with my start, I actually froze a little bit because Lando Norris has seemingly launched just as the lights have went out. Again, this is from an AI, remember. He's done exactly what Valtteri Bottas did at the 2017 Austrian Grand Prix, in exactly the same position as well. And you can see here, I'm trying to go back to see how close it is, and in fact it is pretty much bang on. When the lights go out, the clutch is engaging and he's gone. Like, I don't know if I've ever really seen that from an AI before. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong or you've had that experience or some sort, but I generally think that's incredible to see. Obviously the player can definitely replicate that, but I haven't really seen this too much from the AI. Look at that, look how far he got. Look how far he got before we got to turn 1. He's pretty much down the road. So of course the first thing here is that we're driving the 22 cars with the latest F1 game handling. Now, the 22 handling wasn't the greatest. People were very mixed about it. People loved it and people very much hated it. To be fair, I'd probably say people hated it more than they loved it. But I mean, I was sort of mixed between it. I wouldn't say it's the worst thing in the world, but the best way to put it is I definitely prefer to drive the 22 cars with the 25 handling. With this comes the 25 performance and the 25 tyres. So it's not an exact replica of the 22 season, but it's still close enough if you ask me. There are other options out there if you really want to take this to the next step in modding, because you do have language editors out there, and of course you've got helmet editors as well alongside face editors. So if you really wanted to put the effort in to make this mod the complete 22 season, obviously if you know your language editor, you can get everything sorted in that and get every driver's name changed and make it exactly what it should be for the 22 season. And if you know the helmet modding and you know face modding, then you could somehow probably mod Seb Vettel's face into this and also mod his helmet and then put him back into Aston Martin rather than Fernando Alonso. Even for Carlos Sainz as well, you could do the same thing for him because obviously he was in Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton's position that I'm driving at the moment. Another bonus about this mod being in the new game as well is we get to play on 2 circuits we couldn't with the 22 cars previously. Shadowplay, which includes the Losail International Circuit and the Las Vegas Strip Circuit. Obviously in 2022, Qatar took a year out and came back in 23, and the Las Vegas Strip Circuit never debuted until 2023. So I found this quite a good little bonus feature we can have with this mod. But since 2022, all tracks on the calendar have really much remained the same until recent, with Vegas coming in, and obviously we've got the Mad Ring coming in from the 2026 season as well. So in some way, shape or form, I would really like to see this mod somehow being transferred to 26 cars, because of course in the F1 26 DLC you can't play the 25 season on the Mad Ring, which is a real shame. But if somewhat you can maybe mod these 22 cars with the 26 cars, I would say it'd be very insane to see, because then that gives us the option to play on the Mad Ring, which I think would be very cool. So if the modder's saying this, if you can physically do that, I'd say it's worth a try, you know, just for the sake of playing a new circuit with these older cars would be quite nice to see. And another thing as well is that I'd really love to see older cars being ported into this. Cars like 2021 and 2020 etc. would be incredible to see ported. I don't know if it's possible though, that's the thing. If it is, then I'd say it's definitely worth a try, because obviously the mods are not perfect when doing this. Because the thing is, we're going to have F1 25 for another year. F1 27 is probably not going to be released until I'd say this time next year, or maybe just before. So we've still got another year on hand with this game, so plenty of other opportunities to explore during this time. So if we could possibly get the 2021 cars, 2020 cars downwards etc., I mean that would be incredible. I mean I would heavily be down to see that. Whether it's possible or not, I'm not quite sure. You'd have to ask really professional modders, because I myself, I'm not the greatest modder in the world. I know certain parts about modding, but I don't know that much about modding that I'm able to install older cars into the game, or even tracks. I even remember, I think was it Gekai, I believe, who's working on Formula Circus. He's managed to port the Hockenheim circuit into F1 2020, which I just thought was absolutely mental. Getting to drive the W11 around Hockenheim was an experience to say the least. And even Malaysia as well, I believe. Malaysia was definitely on that list, and I think I actually done a video on that last year. Yeah, I did a video on that. But yeah, get to experience in the 2020 cars around circuits that weren't even in that year's game was quite incredible, and I don't know how the lads done it. Like, I physically don't know how that is possible to do in the game, and I really hope we can do more of these things in the next year before the new game comes out. But yeah, seeing the older cars would definitely be something, and I'd love to see that happen. So like I say, if the modder's watching this, please consider it and see if it's possible, because I think we'd all love to see that. But the thing is, the modder's not just done these cars as well, the 22 season. He's also ported the 23 season and 24 season. Now, it could be something to do with the files from F1 22 onwards into the new game, which sort of worked better than the previous games. But if you guys want to see me do the 23 season and also 24 season, I'll be heavily down to do that. So let me know in the comments and I'll maybe consider doing a video on that. Now, I know you guys will be wondering, does this mod have porpoising? Well, did F1 22 have porpoising? There's your answer. Unfortunately, no, because obviously in real life, the porpoising during this season was absolutely crazy. I mean, you should see the amount of bouncing it was going. If you were not watching this season and you've missed it, like, the bouncing in these cars were that bad that I remember Lewis Hamilton was nearly very much injured after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and you could see him getting out the car holding his back in absolute agony. So yeah, it was quite the season, a very interesting one to say the least, and probably the most memorable thing about that season, if I'm honest, would be the porpoising. And from just doing these 5 laps around the Red Bull ring, I was having so much more fun on this game than I would in 22, because obviously the handling is better, the cars feel a little bit more exciting as well, and the AI is more aggressive, so it's quite good to race against them compared to the less aggressive AI we had on 22. Of course, still feeling like the 25 cars in between that, so, you know, not perfectly to what the 22 cars would be. They would probably be a little bit more slower and more understeery, so it's not perfect, but to get a good feel to these cars in general is still a great feeling to have. And on that note of having a better feel to these cars, it seems that I've completely jinxed that, because on your screen you can see that was not the right way to take the corner, and that is a complete bottle from myself, who was just in the lead, taking the lead in the last lap, just to give it away to Lando Norris with only a sector to go. So that's absolutely fantastic. And you can see how much I'm trying cutting the corners to gain up to Lando Norris, run to the line, and I've just missed out. You can see how you can see how angry I am, man. Look at the bottom of the screen. I'm so frustrated. I'm trying not to let it out, but I'm trying to just keep my cool, man. Like, that was so frustrating. Like, we had that in the bag just to give it away from one stupid mistake, you know, turning a little bit too much into the corner and catching the curb. But yeah, things happen I mean, it is what it is, but so there you go, guys. There is the 22 season in the latest F1 game. Remember, if you do want to play this mod for yourself, you will have to own a PC. You can't do this for console. You do have an option to install this mod as well. You have the drag and drop option, which is the simple one, but of course you've got more chance of the game crashing with that. Or the easier option, which is what I use for my mods, I highly recommend. It's a simplified launcher, which is easier to use mods in, and you can pick and choose what mods you want to install at a time, rather than having to drag and drop them into the game folder and having to verify your game files later on if you don't want that mod. So there are your two options if you want to play this, and I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can install this mod and play it for yourself, alongside the simplified launcher if you guys are wanting to start out doing modding and want an easier way to do so. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Subscribe to the channel to see more F1 game content like you've just watched, and I'll see you all very soon.